At last, we've come home to Silverstone, the second to last race in the 2013 Super GT calendar, a track that favors the consistent. But can anyone muster the driving spirit to steal more points from FMS Senna? Serpent Racing has already taken the lead in the GT500s, but the race for the team championship in the GT300s couldn't be closer. With only 2 rounds to go, the excitement is reaching a pinnacle, so get ready for another stunning pre-race podcast by JET Motorsport.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Derek James, gamertag Mandem278, and as always, I am joined by my cohort, Ryan McDowell, gamertag Siphon16. This week, everybody, we have a special guest. It is Lukas Benzema, aka BTR Raikkonen. You might know him from the LLBM series / LLBM teams in Formula Forza. You might know him because he does a pretty good Sean Connery impersonation.
He's also on like a drama series in Canada, isn't he? He's like kind of a...
Well, I don't know about that, guys. I don't know about that, but I want to thank you guys for having me on the podcast.
Is it Real Housewives Toronto?
I believe so. I believe so.
I didn't know I was on that show.
Let's move right into it, gentlemen, with our race recap from Mugello, the track that JET Motorsport never seems that they can do good at. All right, as for qualifying, FMS Senna did take the pole with a late qualifying time of 51.894 in a close, well, not really close, in a, relatively close second was FMS Top Secret from Serpent Racing with a 52.130, and in third was XPR Moon Tower also from Serpent Racing with a 52.438. As for GT300, It Flames took another pole with a 59.661 in the AF Corse Trecento Ferrari. In second was BTR McNish from, BTR, with a 59.916. And in third was ZX Squid from HPR, another great qualifying performance from him with a 1 minute .062. Ryan, do you have any... I'm just going to cut myself off here. Ryan, are you going to interject about qualifying and start talking about it?
As per usual, I'm going to interject with some more points that you glazed over.
I don't know.
All right, so...
Oh, God.
So Platonic Lotus was kind of the shocker to me in how good he did at this qualifying. This is the highest he's ever qualified in GT300. He got himself 4th on the grid, which is just incredible for him. Also, Slap Shift for Speed, the fill-in driver for, WRC Cape, his second team, Scuderia EMR. And he put himself 5th on the grid. That's also incredible. The 2 Zonda guys got both of them into Group A. So their second outing, they just moved right up from Group B into Group A.
Can you say their first driver's name, Ryan?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Just once for me. Awesome. All right, keep talking.
Right. So the other one, just going down the grid, it was basically everything other than the top 3 was impressive to me. That you got BTR Dark Dragon there filling out Group A in the GTR. He's in 8th, but still having him in Group A, that's a strong performance from Josh Craig there. So hats off to him for that. I think in GT500 though, I was. Really, the only shocker to me was XPR Chicane way down in B5. I don't know if he just didn't have enough time to qualify or whether he hates this track or, what happened.
No, that's just Brad.
Yeah, could be just Brad. But Mr. Dr. Spaceman picks up the slack anyway and puts himself 4th on the grid. Really not all that far from the pole sitter. So, hats off to him for that as well. And we had a little bit of issue with some drivers that were not quite using their gears properly. Like they used second gear, but they didn't get the 1,000 RPM in second gear, and that was Goss and BTR Dark Dragon. Both of those guys did pretty much the exact same thing. And while they did raise it to us, we didn't out and out disqualify him. We put him just to the back of, as if they had qualified at the back of their relative groups. For BTR Dark Dragon, it made no difference though. He was already a 1 minute .797. That's 600ths of a second behind IMSA 90 GTO from Sail Motorsport. So anyway, that's pretty much all I had to say about the qualifying. Then you want me to just?
All right, Ryan. I'm gonna pull a move out of your playbook and interject. I think it's safe to say GT 500 wise, it was relatively close this week. Even at GT 300, it was still kind of close. But Lobby A from A2 back to the back of the lobby, which was Goss in A7, everybody was within 5 or so tenths of each other. So that's fairly impressive. I mean, coming back from last week at Atlanta where everybody was within like 3 tenths of each other, that was really impressive. But this week it was even more impressive for a track that, from what I gathered, nobody had really practiced that often, and nobody kind of paid attention to it because it's Mugello. It's sort of an easy track to get down, but it's kind of surprising that after just a weekend off, everybody kind of still remained very close. It shows you how tight-knit the competition is here this week, or in this series, rather. Yeah, that's all I got. You can keep talking, Ryan.
No, I think you certainly hit the nail on the head there. It's certainly a lot closer than I expected Mugello to be. I mean, we knew that Road Atlanta was going to be very close, but we did not really expect Mugello to be as close as it is, and certainly didn't expect guys like XPR Chicane to qualify B5. But that's sometimes how the cards go, and sometimes it's just a matter of didn't get enough time to put in that fast lap. After the grid penalties, we have a grid penalty system, and if you're just finding out about this, holy cow, you're coming into this pretty late, but we do have a grid penalty system that works as our success ballast, and essentially how it works is it's a stacking system that first place gets a 7th-place grid penalty, second place gets a 5th-place grid penalty, and third place gets a 3rd-place grid penalty, and they continue to stack so long as they're in those top 3 spots. If they're off the podium, it takes 3 positions off of that. So, with the grid order, or with the grid penalties sorted, we have FMS Senna with a 20-second delay. That is kind of ridiculous that it was that far. I mean, he did get a little bit of a reprieve from Atlanta because he finished 4th or 5th? 4th, I believe.
4th.
As Derek takes a break from stuffing a taco in his mouth or something. Anyway, all right. So
it's good taco.
After we finish there, we have after we sort out all the grid penalties, Mr. Dr. Spaceman on the front row with Goss, even with Goss's his sort of imposed penalty for not using second. He ends up second anyway, just because he didn't have any grid penalties. Subway Cookie 3rd, then XPR Moon Tower 4th, Magnum 278 was the last one that didn't have any roll-off delay, and we get down. FMS Top Secret then started with a 13-second delay. In GT 300, it was In Flames that had the longest delay there, 13-second delay before he could start his race, and I have to say, I was expecting Senna to just totally annihilate this race because of that long straight and the power of the GTR. And it sort of looked like it was going to happen. Mr. Dr. Spaceman was running a pretty good race, but he was still getting reeled in by FMS Senna all up until Senna lagged out of the race. It was just devastating when it happened. The other devastating news, In Flames didn't get to use his 13-second delay because he was unable to join the race. We had massive lag on the day of the race, and after trying to assemble the lobbies... When we say
massive, we mean, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think we spent a good 25 minutes trying to set that lobby correctly so that In Flames could get in there, but we had to move on. I mean, otherwise the race just wasn't going to happen. So anyway, we went into the race, and I would say it was a pretty good race. There was lots of action, especially GT 500 was kind of the star show there with the battle for who was going to get second between Moon Tower, Subway, Goss, and you were in that battle for quite a while, and then it started to become FMS Top Secret.
For a few laps, yeah.
Right. But it really seemed that nobody other than Senna was reeling in Mr. Dr. Spaceman. So it was kind of exciting to see the GT500 really duking it out for second. Moon Tower goes up from 4th on the grid to second, but it was just really close the entire race. Now, there was some incredibly close racing, especially between you and Moon Tower there. led to a little bit of investigation of what is off the track and what's legal and what's not. And Lukas and I had a pretty good vantage point of looking over that incident. There was a concern that in turn 6, which is the right-hander, it's kind of the kink before you go down the hill into the club section of the circuit.
Last corner.
Right. It's the penultimate corner on the club circuit. And they were just really close side by side after turn 5, and then into turn 6, they were still side by side, and you see Moon Tower 1 use all of the track and then some, uses two wheels sort of just as two very left wheels staying on the rumble strip, but the other two wheels deep into the grass. And the question was, we didn't know whether his move was reactionary or planned, and they're just really, it was a really tough call. I don't know how you felt about that, Lukas, but I felt it was a really tough call, and in the end, I didn't feel that there was enough there. It happened all too quickly, I think, to say that was a planned maneuver to cut the track. And in the end, there was no contact, so I think we had to just say that there wasn't enough there to issue something to XPR Moon Tower. However, if I was in your shoes, Derek, I see the point, and I wouldn't be very happy about somebody passing me off track, and then, what transpired after that. You had very little room on the exit to sort of recover, even if you were going to slot in behind him, and sort of had to take a decision of, are you going to risk a collision or are you going to take the sand? And you chose the safer route, which is very commendable. But yeah, in the end, I wish that there was more there to help your case. But I just feel like there wasn't quite enough evidence there that told me that Moon Tower intended to cut that corner as badly as it looked. You got any opinions on that, Lukas?
Yeah, like you said, it was extremely close. You and I discussed it, and we watched the replay many times. And like you said, yeah, for me, it looked to me like more of a 50-50 incident. And you talked about how there was no contact, or actually no damage. Maybe there was a little bit of contact between the two cars, but no cosmetic damage was dealt. And to me, that was the deciding factor in this incident. So when I see an incident like this, that tends to be 50-50, and it's just too hard to call. There was an argument for both drivers there, but it was really close, and in the end, I think we both came to the right decision, and rubbin's racing, and that's what they say. So it will go on.
Yeah, we could see this. What you don't want to do is have a passive system of penalty where you don't invoke penalty because people are this isn't an instance where we're not invoking penalty because we're worried about people getting upset or anything. It's just it was too difficult to call. But in a lot of situations, you do want to make those penalty calls so that it doesn't go, okay, well, they're not going to call anything, so I'm just going to get more aggressive next time. In this instance, I really think it was just a case of there wasn't enough there for us to say one way or the other. Anyway, moving beyond that, in Group B, we had an incident between Scalzi Slash and Rock Lewis S. Now, what had happened here is the two XPR guys, that's Rock Lewis S and XPR Chicane, had charged toward the front, had already done their pit, and were running second and third. Scalzi Slash was legitimately running first, but had not pit and had both drivers behind him. Other drivers can confirm that they spent about 3 or 4 laps behind Scalzi Slash, and that's all fair. Scalzi Slash doesn't need to get out of the way for those guys, but apparently what happened is Rock Lewis made a maneuver, called out the maneuver, and into turn 1, Rock Lewis was on the inside. Scalzi Slash ran into him. We don't think it's malicious. I think it's more due to lag, but we do still hold drivers accountable for what their connection does, especially if it's called out like that. You got to give them a little bit more breathing room, especially when you're talking about a scenario like this where was Scalzi Slash gaining himself anything by holding up the second and third drivers? Not really, because he was going to be out of position anyway when he performed his pit stop. They had already performed their pit stop. They were right behind him. He had no chance of keeping the lead there. and yet there was still contact. So he ended up getting an 8-point penalty for causing damage to Rock Lewis S that made him fall back from what would have been first in Group B to third in Group B. So that's a 8-point gap there, and that's what Scalzi Slash got. We talked to him, and he said he held up his hand and it said it probably wasn't the right move, and he apologized to Rock Lewis for any contact and frustration that caused. So those are kind of the two incidents we had there. Back to what actually happened in the GT500 race in Group A, it ended up that Mr. Dr. Spaceman was able to hold on to the race and hold off those Serpent Racing guys and won his first race. That's the first win for Space Mountain Racing then. That's the second win for a driver other than FMS Senna. Now, this one wasn't really helped from FMS Senna lagging out, but still, you still got to be at the right place at the right time, and even if you say FMS Senna would have passed him, that's still big for Mr. Dr. Spaceman to even be second if that's where he was, but he wasn't second. He won the race. XPR Moon Tower then takes second. Subway Cookie takes the last step on the podium there. In GT300, rather, we had a really interesting race between the McLarens. We had BTR McNish basically just leading the race from lap 1 and never let up. We had a really good race between Platonic Lotus 22, Slapshift for Speed, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, I know you love that. That one's for you, Derek, there. IMSA 90 GTO, and BTR Dark Dragon. Those 5 there were all running really close until kind of the later stages of the race where they kind of spaced out a bit. IMSA 90 GTO had some kind of contact that we reviewed as a racing incident, but we did not have any replay. Even from his own replay, it doesn't show any driver making contact with him. He just sort of spins out and collects a bunch of damage on the front straight. Like he's just going straight, and then all of a sudden he spins out and collects a bunch of damage. It's the first time I've seen an incident like that where you didn't see, if there was a lagging car, usually you see them just fly through and you can kind of pick up who it is. But there was nobody around, and nobody lag spiked at that moment on anywhere else in the replay. So I wish we could do something for IMSA 90 GTO, but there just wasn't enough there to go on.
Dedicated servers, man.
Yeah, that'll be nice once we get to Forza 5. Dedicated servers. Can't wait for that. We'll take care of our lobby issue and hopefully take care of a lot of this the lag hits that we do see. Now, we haven't really had a whole lot of those this season. I mean, this Scalzi Slash penalty, even though it is somewhat lag-related, this is the first penalty of the season. Everything else has either been called off by the other driver or has just been ruled that, that there was no fault there. Now, almost all of them have been called off. They've probably been justifiable penalties, such as the BTR McNish on FW Mastodon at Tsukuba. He called that hit off. That was probably the biggest hit of the season. I don't know what you guys feel, but that was a huge hit, and I think BTR McNish had a case there for some pretty significant penalty, but decided, hey, sometimes this happens in racing, and just went on with it. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. But in the end, the two Zondas of Sail Motorsport did quite well. They ended up finishing, Scooby-Dooby-Doo finished 4th, and IMSA 90 GTO finished 6th. Yes, you get those. And that was really good. Right behind them in Group B then, Fear the Darkness apparently dominated Group B in the Zonda. So they're certainly moving up in the world of GT300 and showing that they're a force to be reckoned with there. I'm kind of thinking that they have a pretty good chance here at the next race, but I suppose we'll get into that here in just a minute. Derek, do you have anything else to add about the race itself?
Not really, other than another mentionable battle was when it might not have been much of a battle to him, but when Top Secret and I were kind of duking it out for a few laps, I don't know if you watched it. I didn't watch the race recap on Twitch because, I experienced it firsthand. I didn't need to watch it over again. It seemed like that was a pretty good battle. I don't know if you watched it at all, but it was probably the most fun I've had in a while battling somebody. I mean, the whole Johnny Two Shoes Nürburgring battle, that's going to be hard to top. But that was pretty close. I liked it.
Yeah, we did catch a little bit of that battle back and forth between you and Top Secret. He definitely kept it clean and didn't crowd you too much, but certainly was applying pressure, and that was pretty exciting to watch. But yeah, the part of the problem was there was such a battle going on over second that it was hard to take the race director off of that.
Race director, you mean you?
No, we pay somebody. It's all professional. We pay somebody to do that race directing. Yeah, checks in the mail.
I bet.
Okay, so that's pretty much the race of the Brembo Italian Invitational. Lukas, can you take us through the point standings as they are after the Brembo Italian Invitational?
Sure thing, Ryan. So we're going to start off with the GT 500 class. We have FMS Senna, even though, as you mentioned earlier, he did lag out, he is still dominating right now over number 2 spot, FMS Top Secret. About 150 points difference between those two drivers. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out within the next 2 races. Moving down the list, XPR Moon Tower and Subway Cookie, only 5 points separate both drivers, which is really interesting. And XPR Chain is also involved in that battle, so anything can really happen between those 3 drivers over the next 2 races. We also have great battles going on down the field between Salmon and Dr. Mr. Spaceman. Really only 9 points separating them. And Smithy Lad is also involved. So it will be interesting to see how all these battles plan out within the next 2 races. If we take a look at the team championship, it was a great week for Serpent Racing, getting the pass on Team Jet Vets due to, unfortunately, some lag outs, which hopefully, as you guys mentioned earlier, dedicated servers will be able to fix. Bosch Tac Racing remains in 3rd place, Space Mountain Racing in 4th, and XP Racing actually tied for 4th with Space Mountain Racing, which should be very interesting to see. GT 300 class, X in Flames still leads the group there at 512 points, followed by XZ Squid, who sits at 441 points. We do really see how close these drivers are to each other when we move on to XY101, Johnny Two Shoes, LMR, Led Godass, and Alex P. Only about 50 points separating all those drivers, and with only 2 races left, it's anybody's game. If we take a look at the GT300 Team Championship, LCR still leads the group with 716 points. Not profiting too much from this Grand Prix, 96 points. High Performance Racing actually caught up on them a little there. They sit at 648 points. Behind them, Midnight Performance Development, AF Corse Trento, and Bosch Tac Motorsports Group. Between AF Corso Trento and Midnight Performance Development, and actually High Performance Racing, anything could happen, guys. It really all comes down to these next 2 races. It should be very interesting.
I would say so too.
Certainly, the GT300 battle is a little closer than the GT500 battle, but certainly, at least in teams in GT500, it's closer than the Drivers' Championship is all but locked, I believe, at this point. I'm not really even sure. It's closer to 200 points, isn't it, between FMS Senna and FMS Top Secret? It would be... He really needs a DNF from FMS Senna to have any hope of making that up, but I really don't even know that it's possible at this point.
True. But what's really interesting, at least from my perspective, is the battle we have behind them with FMS Top Secret, XPR Moon Tower, and a Subway Cookie. Really not many points separating those drivers, and As you all probably know, anything can happen in racing, and especially in a Formula Forza series. I know that from firsthand experience, racing in the flagship R1 Championship, and of course V8 Supercars.
Yeah, this last race sort of proved that is the case. I mean, anything can happen. Mr. Dr. Spaceman taking a win, and the huge battle over second place that sort of defined the whole season, I think. A bunch of guys battling for second right now, but it's still a very noble battle. I think it's going to be really interesting up to the end who's going to take those top spots and those payouts. You're still fighting for something. Second place is still worth a lot of money. So anyway, we do have some team changes that we need to talk about. We have, Sail Motorsport has formed their second group that's Sail Racing, and they were going to form Sail GT, a third team in GT300, but they have instead decided to consolidate based on Ghost Rider, their second driver or I guess it was their captain rather, in Sail Racing. They ended up subbing him out for a new driver, Stonerdale 2012, and we'll see how he does in the GT300s. But this is a franchise that has sort of proven themselves that they shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, they certainly can rein in some big performance, and with Sail Motorsports especially this past weekend, 125 points at the Italian Invitational, so certainly can't be scoffed at. I mean, they had second highest, third highest points, I guess, in GT300. So yeah, it's big stuff from them. Now the other one is in Python Motorsports, a sort of a division of Serpent Racing, but in GT300, we had XPR Outlaw Star get subbed out for, or I guess permanently replaced with XPR Dwarf. So he'll be taking over as the captain for that team, and hopefully they'll be able to put up some big points for the last two races of the season here. We do have the race this weekend at Silverstone. That's September 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then the finale on October 6th, the following weekend, at Suzuka Full. That will be the longest track out of the season, kind of fitting for the finale, I think, but that's sort of what we do in all of our series, is have the really long track right at the end. I think that just about does it for team moves, other than we have some expected absences from JET. Isn't that right, Derek?
Yeah. Brad and I are definitely going to be gone this weekend at a car show. And possibly Chicken McHaggard. We could be missing him going to the same show as Brad and I, but other than that, we have nobody filling in. So if you guys feel like filling in for us, make sure to message me, James Hall, or Brad on Xbox Live, and we'll try and work something out.
Why don't we just go ahead and dive right into the Silverstone predictions then, the Evo British Open. This is at Silverstone International, so not the full track. This is sort of the medium-sized track to sort of prepare us for the big race at Suzuka Full that's coming up for the finale a week later. So 30 laps on this, and we're seeing GT300 times right around the 127 range, 126 range, I think. So I'm saying about 10 seconds off of that is what I would expect for GT500s, but maybe Derek has a little bit more insight into that. What do you think, Derek?
Pretty much, I'm going to pull a Brad here. You pretty much nailed it on the head, Ryan. We don't expect any faster than that from what us Jet guys have been talking about this week. So yeah, I don't have that much insight this week on qualifying because you pretty much you stole my thunder, Ryan, and I'm going to have to kill you.
Well, in pretty much any form of racing, Silverstone is the track, other than the really short track. What is that? Is that Silverstone Club, or what is that? The national track, I guess it is. It is always a grip-centric circuit as opposed to a power circuit, but there are some pretty long straights on this that we haven't seen relative to the club circuits we have been racing. So this is kind of a step up. It's not really a club style circuit. Gets you some good distance, and that long straight kind of cutting through the midfield and the what do they call that? The hanger straight on
yes,
into Cops there. So
yeah,
I think we're gonna see some fast passing from the GT500s around the GT300s, and I'm excited to see what that's going to entail. I do think with there are some big runoff here, so I do think we'll see people try and push the cars. I mean, we do see that in like R1. We see people really try and push it because the corners aren't, or the walls aren't so close. You've got some room to move if you misjudge, but there's also a lot of sticky grass here or painted surfaces, so you got to be careful. In some places, if you give it too much, you'll just fly out and hit the wall anyway, or you'll just stick and you'll lose a ton of time. So I don't know. I kind of think that in GT500, I kind of think that the GTRs are going to be dominant here, and that's not just saying. I mean, other tracks have favored other cars than the GTR. I think this one in particular will be one that the GTR does well at anyway.
Yeah, if it wasn't such a powerhouse to begin with, I'm pretty sure we would have picked. If Senna hadn't been winning all these races, I'm pretty sure we would have picked the GTR as the fastest car at this track, anyways.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, this is a pretty fun layout to do. I don't know about you, but I'm not really the biggest fan of the National. It feels just kind of cut off and misses out on some of the best parts of this track. But the International is a pretty good track. I actually like this one. I mean, it takes out a little bit of the Maggots-Beckett's Chapel area, but you still get a lot of the good parts of the track, especially the end. I'm a huge fan of how that snakes around, and you go through the bridge complex. I like that area specifically. But yeah, especially, what is that, turn 1 there, where it's the highest lateral G on the calendar. I don't think even 130R generates as much lateral G as you get into turn 1 if you're taking it appropriately. What do you think about that, Derek?
I would say that's pretty accurate. If you got the car set up properly, you could take it hella quick this week. Definitely the Honda. Well, no, more. I would say it favors. Well, what do you think, Ryan? Mechanical or aero grip here? What do you think it favors more?
Aero.
Because definitely exit. If you take it properly, you're going to need a lot of mechanical grip to make it stick on exit. Now, mid-corner here, it might favor the aero cars, and turn-in, it might favor the mechanical grip cars. So it's more of a mixed corner, though it's a mixed bag of what cars have certain advantages where. So you just got to make sure you take the proper line for how your car's set up. Definitely Senna's going to want to bag on the mechanical grip in that corner, but I don't know, anybody else like the Hondas are definitely going to run high aero there. Would you say it's an accurate statement, Ryan?
Yeah, I think maybe we're overplaying the mechanical grip side of this a little bit too much, but I mean, it certainly does play a factor, especially in the low speed, like the end of the whatever, that little back and forth S right at the end. What is that, 16, 17 on the large circuit? I don't know what that section is called, but the penultimate corners where you're really low speed going around the two kind of 180 bends, those sectors will be sort of advantageous to the mechanical grip cars, but I gotta think that everywhere else is aero. So I don't know. I do think that the NSXs will have a little bit of a leg up on some of the corner exits here, just like they have on some of the other circuits. I mean, you can't really take that away from them. But the Supra might actually have a little bit of a boost in chance here, because the Supra has really good cornering lateral Gs. It's kind of like the the BMW in R1, where no, it doesn't peak out at the highest lateral G, but it can sustain higher lateral Gs than even the Acura if you tune it correctly. So I don't know. I think that the Supra can have some good competition here. It's certainly not out for them. I think I have to give the leg up to the GTR.
I mean, I'd say it's a sound estimate, Ryan.
Lukas, do you have any insights into the international circuit here for these guys?
Well, I've actually only driven the Nissan, but what I can tell you from it is that it's got a lot of downforce. And when I'm looking at the points championship right now in GT500, and I see FMS Senna, the fastest driver for me personally, in what I think personally is the fastest car at this track, I think the Nissans are going to do well.
I'm sorry, I don't
Senna will do well.
I don't know what the Nissan is.
He's Canadian. It's okay. We'll give it to him.
You don't know what
All
Nissan
right. Well, there's your mulligan.
It's all right, because the British call it the Nissan.
And the Australians.
All right. I'll say Nissan from now on. Yeah, but I'm going to go with the Nissans then for this track. Mainly because it's the only one I've driven, but no, from what I've from what I've experienced, it's got a lot of downforce, and I've raced on Silverstone many times, and I just think they're favorable for this track.
Now, GT300s is kind of a crapshoot because the only thing we really know about how these cars behave, because they do kind of get their own unique characteristics once they get into this formula. We do know that the GTR behaves like a powerhouse. The same with the Weissman. They don't really take corners all that well. I mean, they feel really heavy. The McLarens are sort of all around good cars. They're very good aero cars. They're fairly light, like they're right at that limit, and they feel light when you drive them. They have, I will say, acceptable top end, but not really the best mechanical grip. You know what I mean? So at low speeds, they kind of struggle and they'll lose traction and whatnot. And that's where the Ferrari that In Flames is piloting, the F40, really shines. Now, what I don't know is the Zonda. The Zonda shines almost everywhere. It's got great top end. Not as high as the GTR and the Weissman, but really good top end. It's got really good acceleration, and it pulls like hell out of the corners. So, I don't know. This is going to be a really interesting race to see what Sail Motorsport does and is able to do here at Silverstone. Maybe they can get 3 cars into Group A. That'd be fantastic for them. Currently, we're looking at Scooby-Dooby-Doo in 14th in the Drivers' Championship. If he gains some more points here, I mean, with 2 races to go, it's possible for him to launch himself up into well inside the top 10 and maybe be nipping at around the top 7 area. You know, he might be able to gain another 7 positions if he does well at these next 2 tracks. Who's your favorite driver there, Derek? What do you think? GT300, you call it out. Who do you think's going to win this?
I might have to go with one of the Sail Motorsports guys. I mean, they've definitely been stepping it up the past couple weeks, and I would say the Zonda's definitely got a good chance this week at being up there, and I wouldn't put it past them. I'd pick either of the Sail Motorsports guys, either Scooby-Dooby-Doo or IMSA to actually pull out the win here.
Yeah, that could be. They're both very strong drivers, and I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, In Flames is certainly going to give him a challenge, but he's going to be starting with looks like a 10-second grid delay if he still gets pole, it's looking like a 10-second delay because he'll only have 3 seconds off of what he would have had at Mugello. So, I don't know. It's still a lot to overcome for a car that doesn't have huge top end. The Ferrari is sort of lacking that enormous top end, and doesn't really have enormous launch out of the corners either. So, I hate to say it, but In Flames may have his work cut out for him this coming weekend in GT300. GT500, I think we can all assume, we've pretty much already said that FMS Senna is the favored driver for this, so I think that's probably a safe assumption. Derek and Lukas, do you guys have your favorite teams, your team of the week for their performance at this past Mugello, or do you want to pick it for the upcoming week? What do you guys want to do?
Choice? You can do either last week or this week?
Yeah, whatever you want.
I say we do the upcoming week. Because it's the last 2 races and things are really boiling down.
All right, go for it. What do you think, Lukas?
Either GT500 or GT300. You pick one team in there and run with it.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the GT 500 Team Championship. Just because how close it actually is, but we got actually a tie for points in fourth here between Space Mountain Racing and XP Racing. But I'm looking to see JET actually make a comeback next week. I'm not just saying that because this is the JET Motorsport podcast.
I'll give you you want the check in your name or in your alias's name?
Well, after the podcast.
All right.
But it was unfortunate just to see the lag outs, and I think they'll bounce back, and I think it will make for a very, very interesting finale.
All right, Derek, what do you think?
Like I said with race predictions, I'm gonna have to go with my favorite new team of Sail Motorsports. I mean, like we just said, they haven't got anything to lose. They came in late in the season. They're definitely showing us they're not going to contend for the team points lead, but they're definitely showing us that they're not to be taken lightly. And I think this week they're going to be the ones to watch out for.
I'm going to say High Performance Racing is my team of the week for this next week. I think even despite their incredible performances, especially from both WRC Cape and ZX Squid, everybody knows that they're both good drivers, but I think they've sort of flown under the radar. Right now they're sitting in second. AF Corsa Trecento is back in fourth place after In Flames missed out on racing at Mugello. I'm kind of excited to see where High Performance Racing is going to go. They've only had one race that they scored under 100 points, and that was at Camino. And I think that was because of damage to ZX Squid. So I'm going to say that High Performance Racing is going to be the safe bet at Silverstone for really good performance here. So they're my team of the week. High Performance Racing, guys, you've certainly impressed me. Derek or Lucas, you guys have any other final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, I think you're kind of warming up to High Performance Racing there, Ryan. You kind of let me and Brad talk about it before the beginning, but now it seems like you're kind of interested in them. I would say you even have a crush.
A little bit of a team crush, yeah. I like them.
Yeah, you got a High Performance Racing poster above your bed.
No, I don't have one of those. But I still have to hand it to WRC.
Do you have a cardboard cutout?
I thought you wouldn't ask. I can't lie. Okay, no, seriously though, I gotta hand it to WRC Cape for assembling these two really competitive teams. I think he found some really good drivers, and I can't wait to see what they do in future seasons of Formula Forza. But they've helped keep, in the Manufacturer Championship, even though those are just for fun, the Manufacturer Championship, McLaren is leading it by a pretty good margin, I think. Yeah, it's almost 100 points McLaren is leading it by, and a lot of that is due to High Performance Racing. So, hats off to those guys. That's pretty impressive stuff.
They're the new Bieber, man. It totally makes sense. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start cutting my hair like Cape. Gustavo, you heard me. I'm gonna start cutting my hair like you.
Lucas, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, just as you were talking about WRC Cape here, just looking at the points too. It is extremely close between BTR Dark Dragon and WRC Cape. Only 2 points separate those drivers. So if your prediction ends up being correct, we could get into some crazy number crunching when we get to the last race. It's going to be extremely close, and I'm looking forward to see how things pan out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Well, I think that just about does it for us. Be sure to tune in this weekend. We're on twitch.tv/Formula Forza. We're also on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Formula Forza. You can also follow us on Twitter at Formula Forza. Also, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. You can see all these podcasts and let us know what you think about them. Be sure to subscribe to us or comment. Let us know what you want to hear in upcoming podcasts. There's one left in this season, but be sure we will be back in Forza Motorsport 5 and perhaps even in Forza Motorsport 4 for Le Mans Series. That's not totally decided yet where that's going to be, but certainly catch us next time, guys. We do have another race in just 1 week's time at Suzuka, and we'll get to that next time. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Lucas, say goodbye.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, see ya. You guys are very intimidating.
God, I'm like 5'8". I weigh 120 pounds soaking wet. What's so intimidating about me? Is it my dapper is it my dapper looks and my stone cut jaw and the tone of my voice? I mean, I it's got to be that. If I start talking like this, it's simple. We killed the Batman. Oh, wait, that was a joke. That was completely terrible. I'm sorry to everybody who listened to that.
It's clearly the fluidity in which you talk.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's your way with words.
Yeah, it's, I get away with words that just makes people like me. This city needs a hero. I lost my pants.